Hi, my name is Thomas Maurer. I'm a cloud advocate working at Microsoft. And in this video, we're going to have a look how you can learn and get started with Microsoft Azure in 2022. Welcome back. I often get asked by people, Thomas, what is the best way to start with cloud computing and specifically with Microsoft Azure? What are the great resources and how do I get started? How can I try it out? How can I learn and study this new technology, right? Especially if they're probably in the industry for a couple of years, they're working in IT, even or if they're outside of IT, right? And they want to learn about cloud computing and again, Microsoft Azure. So I put together a couple of resources, which I think are the best resources to get started with Microsoft Azure in 2022. But if you have resources which you think are great, please feel free to leave a comment and put them there so we can help each other out there as well. So let's get started. One of the first things I recommend, obviously, while learning a new technology or something new, is hands-on experience, right? And this is something which I always need to actually understand a technology or a different service or something. So I need to try it out, right? And obviously, you can create an Azure account, and often you get asked to put a credit card there to actually try stuff out. And usually, you need to pay for cloud computing services. But obviously, if you just want to learn about it, it's sometimes a hard ask to do, right? And so what we have, and a lot of people don't know about this, is the Microsoft Azure free account. So this free account gives you Azure services for free, some of them for basically ever, and some of them for like 12 months. So you can use them and try it out for like 12 months of learning. And then we have a couple of other things, benefits as well, and we will just have a look at it right now. So if we go to the Azure free account page, you can see here, this will provide you with a couple of Azure services running in Azure, which you can try out, but then also a couple of services for your hybrid and on-premises environment and at edge locations such as Azure Arc, and also like whatever you do with cloud computing, right? So that is great. And you can then basically just create by clicking start here. The only thing you basically need is a Microsoft account to sign in. And then this will go through a couple of steps to create that account. Now, this is a one-time thing, right? You can only create that account once for yourself, so you can try out these things. And this will then provide you with a couple of things. So first of all, you get some popular Azure services for 12 months for free, right? And we will have a look at that, how that looks like in just a bit. You can try them out. You can figure them out. Like you can play with them. You get a couple of them as well. And again, 12 months are a good time to actually try these things out. Even though you get like blocked for a month because you have a lot of work, you can still then do like continue 2-3 months later if you want to. And then we also have a lot of services in Azure, like over 40 services, which are currently always free, right? They're like free. You can use them. Like if you only use this, you can always use them. And if you sign up for this account, you also get $200 of Azure credit, which you can use in the first 30 days for basically any Azure services which is there, right? So you can actually go out and like try something out which is not listed as a free service forever or even in these 12-month period. You can go out and try these things out. And if we look at this, what we can do, there's a couple of things. This is not just limited to like a specific area of Azure, like not just about virtual machines, not just about PaaS services like web apps or functions. It's really like basically includes a lot of the Azure platform. And if we scroll down here, you get a quick overview about what these can be. So these can also be virtual machines, Linux and Windows. These can be SQL databases, storage, functions, and so on. And if we do a click here, say all free services, you get this nice little list here where you get an overview about what service it is. So for example, one thing is like Azure Advisor. This one is basically really unlimited. And you can see here the free period. If I zoom in here a little bit, it's always free, right? This one is one which is always free. And then on the bottom, underneath that, you can basically see there's also one saying 12 months. So this is one which is in this 12-month period. You can also see here, if I go down, what is actually included. So if you look at, for example, app service here, this is used for like creating web apps and stuff like that, mobile apps as well. You can see here you get 10 web, mobile apps, or API apps with 1 GB of storage, and that's basically always free. So if you want to run your web apps, or you have a small web app, you can run it on Azure for free. So that's pretty cool. And then we can also use like things like storage, which you can try out. So for example, we have one thing called archival storage, which gives you a large amount of storage, especially if data you just want to put away for a long time, when it basically archive those things. And we offer that for you to test and try this out as well. So we give you 10 gigabyte of local redundant storage, or 10 gigabyte of local redundant storage and geo-redundant storage, and a couple of reads here. And that's one service which is like limited to 12 months. And again, you can see the list goes on here with like a lot of always free, but then also these 12-month period things, which you can try out. So if we scroll all the way down here to virtual machines, for example, we also give you 2 different types of virtual machines. So you get a Linux virtual machine and a Windows virtual machine, which includes the Windows license, by the way, as well. And you can see here you get that for 12 months. You get 750 hours of a B1S burstable virtual machine. So this is pretty great. You can try to run that. And again, 750 hours in 1 year. That is obviously not covering the whole year. You cannot run it 24/7 for the whole year. But this is also how cloud computing works, right? If you don't use the machine, you just turn it off, and then it will not go against this credit. So you basically, like whenever you need it, you start it up, and you can play around with it. So that is pretty cool. And again, there's a ton of other free Azure services here you can leverage in that as well. Now, again, go out. I put the link in the description so you can create your free account. You can go and play around. This will be then anyway transitioned, by the way, not that there's any surprise, in a pay-as-you-go account. So when you're not just limited to using these free services, you can also use others, but then obviously you need to pay for these as well. But as long as you stay in these free services, that's absolutely fine. There will be no charge to your credit card in that case. Now, this still is like your account, and right, and it's like you need to a little bit know what you want to try out, right? It's like, okay, I need to actually try out a specific service. I need to have a little bit of an idea what I want to try out. Now, this can be tough, especially if this is like first try with cloud computing. There's so many fundamentals to understand, and someone should a little bit guide you a little bit. Okay, what is important? What do I need to learn? What are the concepts of cloud computing? Because they're like different, obviously, from what you probably worked before. And also Azure is probably different than other cloud providers in some cases. So what I want to show you here is our learning platform called Microsoft Learn. So if you go to microsoft.com/learn, you go to our free learning platform. And again, this is not just limited to Azure. This covers a lot of different Microsoft technologies as well. This is also where you can find more information about certifications and so on. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. But it offers you what we call learning paths, right? So depending on different topics or different roles or different exams, we offer you a kind of like set of learning paths with different modules you can go through and learn about these different products and services. So the only thing here, you don't need any credit card. You just need a Microsoft account to actually do that. And the great thing about this is also we can have a look at one of these modules, but it goes to it's like text where it explains scenarios and concepts and things like that. There are videos explaining stuff. You have some questions usually at the end to do a self-check if you understood the topics. But what you also offer is a sandbox environment. So you get basically an Azure sandbox environment for certain scenarios for free, where you can then try out different pieces, right? You can deploy a web app, you can go out and deploy some code, you can manage different services and play around with it without having to have an Azure account or anything. It's just really a web-based sandbox, basically, you can access, and you can still try it out. You can try the CLI, you can PowerShell in, you can do a lot of cool things there as well. So for that, you can see here I'm logged in, so it gives me already some recommendations based on what I have done before, but you can also find some other learning paths here as well. So you can obviously go, and you can see here on the left side, I can filter by different products here, by Azure, HoloLens, M365, GitHub, a lot of different stuff we can actually figure out here. And what we also have here is you can actually go out and think about different modules. So you can search for it. So you could basically say, I am a Azure administrator, or I'm a AI engineer. You can see here, if I'm a developer, I can select that as well. We have stuff for data science and so on. So you can really figure out, hey, what is the right learning path for me, right? And so what I have here is, for example, I have here one learning path called Microsoft Azure Fundamental, Describe the Core Concept. So this is really a good place to start if you start with Azure. So you can actually go and learn about Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. You can see here, this has different parts here which describe the whole thing, describe core Azure concepts, describe core Azure services, and go on. And so this learning paths, again, has these couple of different modules here, which you can go through. It's also explained here. And then you can basically just go through them and work with them as well. So pretty simple, pretty good. And again, for free, super easy to use. Highly recommend that. There's also get regularly updated. So it's not something like, okay, we have created that like 2 years ago and it's not up to date. Usually they get updated very heavily. So Microsoft Learn is absolutely a great place to go and learn different topics. And I mentioned that it's great, obviously, if you want to learn just like a specific service, a concept, or whatever you want to do. But sometimes you also want to take a Microsoft certification exam, right? And this is actually a great idea, by the way, if you want to learn about Microsoft Azure. Because again, sometimes it can be difficult to understand what do I actually need to learn, right? Like, so for example, if I want to be a Azure administrator, what are the technologies I need to learn? What are the skills I need to have to be an Azure administrator? Now, luckily, we have Azure certifications, and they're now, if you look at this here, they're now role-based, right? So depending on what you are, if you're a developer, if you want to be an administrator, if you want to be a solution architect, data engineer, AI engineer, security engineer, DevOps engineer, and so on, we have these role-based certifications. So you can really go and say, okay, I want to be, let's say, a administrator here. So if you want to be an administrator, it's going to explain you a little bit about this path to become an administrator. And it also recommends you here the exams you basically need to take, or the certifications you should go. And there's an optional one. So the Microsoft Azure Fundamental one is a great certification. I basically recommend it to everyone who wants to get started with Azure to actually go with doing that certificate. This is optional, right? Even if you're already advanced and you just want to go and take as less exams as possible to become, you can just go and take the Azure Administrator Associate Certification exam, which is the AC 104 at this point. And you can basically just take that one. But I always recommend take the fundamentals first, the AC 900, because this is one where you basically get all the fundamentals in, right? And there's two benefits of doing that. One is obviously you get the fundamentals, you get all the fundamentals you need to know for Azure and for future exams as well. And secondly, if you never took a Microsoft exam, this is a good chance to basically learn how that works, right? How you can take this exam, how the process works, how the design of the interface works, how the questions are designed. You get a kind of like a feeling for that without having like a super deep knowledge on the technology itself. So I always recommend doing that as well. So if we go back here, again, we have, as I mentioned, we have these role-based certifications. And if you scroll down here, you can also see that we have, like, there are a list of different ones. So in the middle, you can see here the role-based certifications. Again, this is just a short list, but you can get all the role-based certifications listed here as well. And here, we also have the fundamentals. Again, these are usually optional, but this is an absolute great place to start for all of your, depending on the technology you want to go in, right? And then we have like additional certifications, like if you like what we call the specialty certifications. So if you, for example, are a Azure administrator or an Azure solution architect or developer, mostly working with SAP on Azure, this is a great way of verifying your skills as well. This is not necessarily, this is more technology-based versus the role-based certifications. So let's have a look at the actual administrator. So if I go to administrator and I go to Microsoft certification, Microsoft Certified Administrator Associate, that's called what the certification is called. You can see here I can get this by taking exam AC 104. And then there's a description, okay, what should a candidate be able to do in that? What is the role-based description for this? And then you also get some information, okay, what are the skills measured here? This is a very important part. This is where you actually get to know, okay, what are the skills you need to have, right? What are the technologies to learn? And this is what I tell people who could start with Azure. This is a great list. So if you want to become or change your career to become an Azure administrator or developer or whatever role you want, if you look at this exam outline and the skills measured, this gives you a great overview of doing that. And again, you can then download the whole PDF outline where it goes in every detail what is led. We also give you then links to Microsoft Learn, which I just showed you, with different learning paths, for example, which will help you prepare for these specific exams, right? So this is a great place to actually go and learn about this as well. If you want to prepare, the Microsoft Learn platform offers you these modules and so on. And obviously, if you're already familiar with Azure and if you're skilled, certifications are always great, right? Doesn't matter if you want to apply for a new job, if you want to get a promotion, if you want to get a salary increase. There are very good reasons why you want to get the certifications. But again, it's also absolutely great if you want to just figure out, hey, what technologies are included in that role? And it doesn't mean that like there's everything in there, right? There are very different types of Azure developers and so on, but they usually give you the right fundamental to do that. So what I also have next to obviously learning for this, I created basically a list here of study guides. So in my case, I created, like when I prepare for an exam, I create a study guide, and that includes resources from Microsoft Docs. So it's a list of like every topic in the outline. I get at least one link explaining that from the Microsoft Docs, right? So I highly recommend if you want to check this out, and I put these links in the description of the video, you can check this out as well. You can see the different exams here, for which I created study guides and go through them. They also link always the right Microsoft Learn modules as well. So you can, like, whatever you prefer, you can go through all the Learn modules, or you can use the links to the docs I put in there. Whatever you prefer, you can also do both, obviously, as well. Now, the last thing I want to highlight is like, okay, these are great ways to get really started with Azure, but then there's a lot more to learn, right? So I put down in my blog post, which I also put the link in the description, a couple of resources which are very important. For example, if you look at the whole cloud computing and Azure scenario, it's not just about, obviously, the technology, but often it's also about how do I set up my organization? How do I prepare my environment? How do I get started with cloud computing? How do I do like billing and charging? Like, how do I organize myself? How do I do governance and all that kind of stuff? And those are very important topics for a lot of companies, and there are obviously a lot of opportunity for people to know about this stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. I put together a list of links I think very interesting. So there's the Azure Architecture Center, where you can get more information. Very good source is the Cloud Adoption Framework, which explains all the different ways of how to set up and get started on your cloud journey. This is really with proven guidance from Microsoft, from product groups, from our consultants, but also from partners and customers, and all the learnings put together in this guidance. And so they're then like how you can do strategy, plan, ready, migrate, govern and manage your environment, and so on. For those who are looking at migration scenario, I put link to the Migration Center. Again, a couple of links here, for example, reference architectures, quick start templates, code samples, security stuff, but then also a little bit of like understanding a little bit more about, okay, how do SLAs work? How does pricing work? and how does support work and so on. So I put that all together, and you can absolutely go through this in that on that blog post. So I hope this was helpful and gave you a little bit of an overview how you can learn Microsoft Azure and get the fundamentals in cloud computing and how to get started and where do you find the right resources. And if you liked that video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully see you in the next one.